It's a new day and it is hotter than hell. Fresh from Australia. Bam. Billet valve covers. Yeah, we should be all good. This is looking dope back here though. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hoonigan Project Garage. It's a new day and it is hotter than hell here. We are going to be working on Whalen, two-door OBS Tahoe, the old Godzilla swap, and a big-ass turbo. Up until this point, we've obviously fit this Texas Speed built Godzilla motor into the frame rails here with some custom mounts. We've got a Gearstar Pro 4L85E level 4 transmission with a yank converter bolted up to that piece. Got some RCV axles installed. Of course, we got this honkin' Garrett G47 turbo, 88 mil compressor housing with 88 mil compressor. And, right now, the small hot sides on it. So that's a .96 AR. And of course, the two 50 mil Garrett GVW 50 wastegates.
What does that even mean?
My boy Johnny Branch come in and burn up some really sick turbo manifolds so we can make this thing work. Angelo built a pretty sick shifter setup in here. And yeah, so today we got a whole lot of other stuff to do. Today we're gonna go over something really important. It's how to make one of these run.
Oh, Tom, goddamn!
So, whenever you're building something that hasn't been done by a million people already, there's not a whole lot of information out there. Luckily, we were able to get pretty much everything from Holley or Holley brands, so that was rad. Starting with the meat and potatoes here, obviously, Holley Dominator. We got a ton of different functions this thing can do, and it's all in one package. That's very nice. With that, obviously, we've got the big Holley 12.3-inch dash. Cool thing about what Holley's done up to this point, you don't actually have to run a Dominator on these. Now they have the full system for the Terminator that's just full-blown plug and play, and it'll do all the self-learning, just like if you were using an LS, right? So that kit is available. That is on the market, ready to go. Whenever you're doing that, you're gonna need a harness for the engine, trans, all that stuff. So this is the harness that will control all of the sensors on the Godzilla, and it's all plug and play, and it's all neatly labeled, which is really important. We've also got a 4L80 harness. Harnesses for the smart coils, harnesses for the injectors. Got a 100 PSI transducer. We got a 200 PSI transducer. Map adapter, the map sensor, 2 boost solenoid controllers, coolant temp sensor, 2 intake air sensors, 2 wideband O2 sensors, Godzilla crank sensor module. Now those are the basics. I wanted a lot of control over this thing. So I am running these MSD smart coils. We got some plug wires from MSD as well. We are running EGT probes in all of the primaries. So all 8 cylinders will have an individual EGT probe. You gotta get a driver for it and the controller for that as well. This is the little harness for those guys. So now let's take a look at what it's gonna take to fuel this thing. Excuse all the tape and stuff here. I'm gonna be cutting out for that bulkhead fitting that I've made. But we got this radium fuel cell and it has 3 450 liter per hour pumps in it. So now to get that fuel from the cell up to the Godzilla. So we're gonna be running some big ass dash 10 line and a bunch of AN fittings, obviously from Earl's, complement that, and actually some from Radium too, where we're gonna need them, but more on that later. Got a Holley 10 micron filter, so this will be in line, that'll be mounted on the frame. And then we've got this bad boy. This is a flex fuel sensor. Now, I also got one of these kits from Holley, so they actually make this Godzilla fuel rail kit, which is really nice. Pretty cool stuff. So this would actually work on a stock Godzilla, but we're gonna just use it for basically the rails. And then we have some other stuff that we could use this Dash 6 for, so that's good. But big thing is, getting the fuel inside of the engine. And that is where our homies at Fuel Injector Clinic came through in a pinch. But after having a pretty in-depth conversation with the tech guys at Fuel Injector Clinic, they were pretty confident that I would be able to run just 8 injectors and still make all the power I wanted to make and actually have like good drivability. So these are 1650 cc injectors. Very cool. When you buy the injectors, it comes with this information sheet and it shows all of the flow match data because they flow match all of these injectors and it's, listed by serial number so you can see what they were flowing. So, you're going to get more more consistency and way better drivability and tunability out of that. So cool thing is they show you what these things flow at the different pressures and voltages. And so with us, you know, we got turbo on E85. We'll probably be running this thing at like 58 PSI, maybe 83 PSI.
Blow it up.
We'll see where we get with it. So here's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna start by building out the fuel system because I can do that. It's all mechanical stuff. It's simple. I'm gonna get started on this. Let's begin. We've had a little bit of a change of course. Just found out we have to do some construction here at the building. We are currently, as you see, loading up the old Boxos. And I even got body parts back on the truck because we're loading this thing up. We're gonna be heading down south to my boy Page's shop, Rad Rides in Huntington Beach, where we're gonna finish this thing. All right, we are all situated now. We got Waylon down here at Rad Rides in Orange County. We got my man John here. He's gonna be helping out. What's up, dude? Hell yeah. Right now we gotta get organized, gotta get the parts set up, figure out how we're gonna proceed with this and get into it. But we're gonna pull this whole front core support and everything back off. First, get back to where we started and then we can get back to kicking. All sorts of other shit. We're gonna cut for the day and then tomorrow we're gonna get back into it.
I'm leaving. I'm fucking leaving!
You know what, I can't leave stuff alone. So you know what, we're not gonna jump to the next day. We might as well get to work here. Still gotta organize a bunch of stuff, but there's something I really wanna put on the car, fresh from Australia. Oh. Bam. All right, so these billet valve covers, custom made by these dudes right here. Swift Tech Engineering, straight out of good old Aussie boys there. Super clean, and look how neat that is, that baffle and port, ready to go. So I'm gonna go and put them on the car because you know what, I gotta do something while I'm here. All right, folks, look, if you're like me or any of us at Hoonigan here, inevitably you're gonna be working on your car and you're gonna need some parts. Well, luckily for us, we got places like eBay Motors where we can get pretty much any part on the planet for any vehicle. What we're gonna go over today real quick is how we can make sure that if we're getting a part on eBay Motors that it actually falls under that eBay Guaranteed Fit umbrella. So here's how you do it. Step one, you wanna go to ebaymotors.com. Step two, you want to enter your car into your garage on eBay Motors. You enter year, make, model, submodel, hit select. Now the car is in your garage. And then if you scroll down, you'll see search for parts that fit your whatever car. So when we enter the product, we're there. We're gonna use wheel hub bearings. We search, boom. So from there, you'll see a whole list of products. If you click on one, this is how you tell. If you go over, scroll down the right side of the screen, you'll see a little box. And if it has this eBay Guaranteed Fit logo, where it says eBay Guaranteed Fit as part of the eBay money back guarantee, this item is guaranteed to fit your vehicle. If it has that, you know it falls under that category. So that means if for some wild reason this part does not fit your car, you can send it back, get your money back, free shipping, no questions asked. That's how you do it. Go on, get the stuff you need. Oh yeah, Swift Tech Engineering. Valve covers look sick. Much more at place. Much better than the crusty stock ones. Anyway, carrying on. All right, so here's the deal. Fuel system components. Okay, this is all very simple stuff. Here's what we're gonna do. You'll see a couple different sizes of line, right? Actually 3. I don't exactly know how I'm gonna run it, right? So I got a bunch of different stuff. I got some of these tight radius 90s, dash 10 stuff. We've got the dash 8 stuff. Obviously fuel injector clinic injectors. Here's the deal. The fuel pressure regulator, this is a pretty unique piece that Radium makes. What this is this is a pulse damper. Now, if you remember, in a previous episode, I showed the fuel, I was installing the fuel cell. There are 3 fuel pumps. 1, 2, 3. The thing is, when you have multiple fuel pumps, there's inevitably going to be different pulses coming from those injectors, right? You know, you got some turning on, turning off. They're pumping at different rates, right? You want to dampen that because you don't want any surging. So they make this pretty sick piece. And I've already got this kind of set up to where our return line is going to be an 8. You'll notice there's 2 -6s going into this -10, but here's how we're going to run that. I'll explain this all in a bit. We've got this really dope looking radium fuel pressure gauge. That's going to go right on there. And then, of course, we got the Holley fuel rails, Holley fuel filter, which will be mounted in the frame, and then this, our flex fuel sensor. So let's talk about how we're going to run the fuel. Okay, please excuse my rudimentary drawing, but this is the truck. So we're going to start at the fuel cell. The green is the cold fuel going from the fuel cell to the rails. It's going to come out the cell, go into the bulkhead, which is in the back. I'll point that out. This is all going to be -10. It's going to go to the fuel filter, then flex fuel sensor, then -10 up to here. Then it's going to Y out, and then it's going to split. Then it's going to feed both fuel rails separately. Then after the fuel rails, it's going to pinch down to a -6, right? So that says -6 there. So then 2 -6 lines are going to come here, and then it's going to Y back into a -10 right at the fuel pressure regulator and the pulse regulator. Then that's going to be like, I'm going to keep the pressure at whatever. I think it's like 60 PSI, 59, something like that. And then we're going to have a -8 return all the way back to the bulkhead, and then it's going to come out, boop, boop, back into the fuel cell, and then repeat the process. So simple, I guess. First step before I start installing everything, I want to put the correct size orifice.
What's that? Say that again?
In this, because we're going to have a ton of flow. So it comes with 2 orifices. This gold orifice is the one we're going to want to use. Further instructions because of the amount of fuel flow, which is a lot of liters per hour. So pretty simple. You just take this guy off. These 6 bolts are on the top. This all comes apart. And then we're going to take the silver one out and replace it with this. Got the radium fuel pressure regulator / fuel pulse damper mounted kind of where we want it. And now we're gonna lift this bad boy up. We're gonna mount this nice Holley 10 micron filter and figure out where we're gonna throw our flex fuel sensor. So let's get her up in the air. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna mount this thing on the return side, right about there. Gotta get rid of that bracket. My man here got the old saw, so give her hell. All right, so we are all situated here. Gonna be running this flex fuel sensor after the fuel pressure regulator. It's all nice and neat right here. It's gonna clear where our brake booster goes and everything, so we should be good. This will be far out enough to where brake lines can go in. It's not gonna get in the way of anything. Love it. Okay, now that we got all this kind of laid out, we can actually start running the lines, figuring out lengths for everything, and keep on rocking. All right, here's where we're at so far. Laying out the fuel system. We're gonna Y here, gonna come back to the fuel pressure regulator, and then basically we're gonna Y up to 2/8 to come up to feed the fuel rails. I've also coated these with Thermotex since they're gonna run down the back of the bell housing and be sandwiched in between the firewall. And it just gets really hot down there. So anything we can do to keep that fuel cool is gonna be good. So wrap it all up in this, it'll be really nice. You know what, I should probably do these lines too. Okay, so got some good news here. My part just came in the mail. Got this Mishimoto 5-gallon water cooler. I'll pull that on in a second, but as you guys know, we've been partnered with eBay Motors now for a couple of years, so we, like to use them whenever possible. It works out really good, and turns out being cheaper than buying from most online wholesalers. Let's unbox this now. So, already got the AN bungs in there. So this is gonna go, let's head to the back. So here is where we are at. basically this is gonna get toasty. It's gonna be a lot of water coming out of a very hot place going back to this. Probably don't want it running with the fuel, right? Because it, like, even these fittings are gonna heat this thing up, and that's gonna heat the fuel up, right? And we do not want hot fuel. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna split the bulkhead. So fuel will come in over here, and then we'll run the dash 16 lines to this. Will be coming up on that side too. So gotta wait, need a couple more fittings, need some other hose. So we're gonna pack it up for the night, and then I'm gonna come back tomorrow and we're gonna keep kicking ass. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take and we're gonna cut that bulkhead plate in half so we can see what size it is. Now also, while we're gonna figure out where to mount that Mishimoto ice box, we've also got this nice pump, bam, some Davies Craig pump with the mount that Tick Performance makes for it, so we can mount that bad boy up like that, bada bing, bada boom, have that thing flowing. We'll cut this in half, we're gonna figure out where to mount that, figure out the layout for the ice box, and then we can start cutting. Yeah, let's go. All right, Angelo,
So-
tell them what we're gonna do.
So we got this water tank here.
Yep.
Problem is, when it sits in here, the valve starts hitting.
Yeah.
And it's just wonky. We're gonna lift it up like this, and we're gonna kind of like mount it above so we can kind of have a smooth path for our drain. And then it'll just kind of look a little cleaner. It'll kind of just like tabletop out.
How far out we mounting it?
Probably like an inch and a half.
Okay.
Not too far.
Cool.
Nothing crazy.
And so basically with the lines here, we're gonna take and insulate them, so if they gotta cross the, I mean, we're gonna try not to cross the path of the fuel cell, but now we gotta figure also, we're gonna put this guy. So, what you thinking? Probably behind it and then run the...
Yeah, maybe behind it or just somewhere tucked away where it makes sense, where we can run plumb line and run the least amount as we can.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Rock and roll.
Get this going and then we'll go from there.
All right, so we got this thing up in the air. We're gonna change out the fittings and the filter. Yeah, then we're gonna split that into the 8s, and that'll be our feed. Easy day. All right, so it's gonna go through up there, and we know it's gonna come to about right there. So we'll give it a little extra, give it a snip right about there.
So we got this thing all shaped out. We made our chipboard template, and then you just basically trace it onto a big sheet of aluminum.
Yep.
Cut it out, clean it up, get all the edges all nice,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna basically bend it.
So all those lines are your brakes?
Yeah, so I'll break this down, and I'm missing a line right now, but there'll be a break right here as well, so it'll kind of step down and come back up, and then your tank will be on top.
Nice. And this will lift us, what, about like an inch or so off, the deck?
Inch and a quarter, inch and a half.
Sweet.
Enough for that little crane to be able to.
Nice. And then plenty of clearance for big enough line to get on and off there?
Yep.
Yeah. That, it looks super thick. Are you bending this by hand, or how are we doing this?
So I was gonna basically bend this by hand and use like a fixture plate to kind of keep straight lines on it. But
Yep.
I'm gonna go home and have to use my bigger brake to get the lines down and
Just so it's not all like janky. So
yeah,
it's
keep
not-
tight radiuses and
Okay.
whatnot. So
Sick.
be ready tomorrow morning.
Hell yeah. Boys, you did good today. Yeah. Clean up here. Gonna call it a night. It's about 8 o'clock. I think we should turn it in, but here's what's going down. This, well, we don't really have mounted yet, but got a hole cut for the bulkhead for the water lines. Then we got the bulkhead for fuel lines, and it's gonna weld that plate. Damn, that's nice. It's a good cut. This plate just,
Just gotta weld her out.
hell yeah. So what, tomorrow we're gonna bend up that aluminum.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bend that at home real quick when I get home. Gotta weld that up, blend it out. I gotta get a couple more things from the shop.
Sick. Easy. All right, well, see you tomorrow. Back at Rad Rides, and we are gonna finish up mounting this bad mamma jamma. We no longer need the old O-ring case as our standoff, because Angelo made this. Man, check that out. Real sick. Oh, nice and clean. So this guy's gonna go, let's see. I think it goes like that. Oh, look at the little detail on here. Hell yeah. So this will mount here. Look at that. All right. So I'm gonna mark out some holes and run some riv nuts into the floor so we can mount this, and then we're gonna get moving. All right, so icebox is mounted. Got it on the platform that Angela made. Looks sick. Really nice and tidy. Now we gotta figure out a mount for the pump, put the bulkheads in, run the lines, and this back should be pretty much done, except I think we're gonna build like a little sheet to go over this to kind of cover this and enclose, just so we can, you know, A, have some sort of fire shield, and B, like be able to put things inside of here that, you know, and like actually have some like cargo space. Yeah, anyway, moving on. So our friends over at TurboSmart make this really rad turbo oil filter / pressure regulator. And you need that because the turbo doesn't want to see some crazy high PSI, but this is that piece. So it's nice and compact, it's an oil filter, and it keeps pressure constant without having to, you know, have some adjustable valve or anything on there. So it keeps the pressure right where it needs to be for your oil feed for your turbocharger. So this is really, really trick. The TurboSmart makes these. It's called the OPR Turbo Oil Pressure Regulator. If you want to get that, there's a part number right there. And then, of course, we're running a big old fatty honking TurboSmart blow-off valve too. Let's see this honk. Bam! This thing's like a main.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so this is about as far as we can take it in this episode because we gotta just wait on the parts to show up so we can finish the job. So for the most part, the fuel system's built out. The oil cooler ran along with the filter mount. Obviously the cooler is on the core support. We got the lines for all that. That's good. Everything's mounted. We just got to run these lines to the bulkheads. We also, I got to do a little shift with there because this outlet here is only a -12. So, you know, I've got -16 bulkheads. So I'm waiting on new fittings here so I can actually have a -16 line. So then just got to make a line for the fuel feed. Yeah, we should be all good. This is looking dope back here though. Radium fuel cell looks really nice in here. Mishimoto ice tank looks great, especially with the standoff that Angelo made and these bulkheads that Angelo and Cody helped out with. Stoked on that. So on the next episode, because we're still waiting on a lot of parts, I've got a rear end from Curry coming. I'll probably start with the wiring, which we showed you a little bit of in the beginning of this episode. So that whole Holley Dominator system, the PDUs, all the sensors, we go over that and stick all that stuff in and make sure that everything's mounted where it needs to be and is functioning. It's also got all this stuff from Kryptonite. This is all like steering arms and stuff, and got a bunch of suspension parts from QA1. So got a lot to do still, but we're getting there piece by piece. We'll see you on the next one. Look at that, it rolls, baby. Honestly, at this point, I hope that it rolls over and catches on fire on the trailer.